Welcome to Virteva's Let's Talk Roadmap Rundown, the show where we talk through the latest updates, enhancements, and features coming soon to Microsoft 365. It's Tuesday, June 18th. I'm Scott Ledwan, and on this week's edition of the Roadmap Rundown, I'll be letting you know more about new search filters coming to Microsoft Outlook, two new features coming to Microsoft Teams, including a new way to view meeting attachments directly in Teams, extended availability for the Viva Insights Copilot dashboard, and updates around legacy Outlook retirement planning. Before we get into the roadmap items for the week, we'd really appreciate it if you could take just a small moment of your time to like, subscribe, and share today's video and the channel with your friends and colleagues. Over 50% of our watchers and listeners aren't subscribed today, and hitting those numbers is a huge help for us getting this content out in front of more people. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've seen roughly around 20 new subscribers to the channel. To all of those out there who have already subscribed, we really appreciate you taking the moment to subscribe, share, and help us grow the channel over time. All right, well, let's waste no time and get into the first major roadmap and message center announcement for the week. And that is going to be the clickbaity message center announcement, or at least it was for me when I was first looking at it, is Legacy Outlook Clients Retirement Plan, message center ID MC801980. And when I say clickbaity on this one, you look at the title and you know that there's two different versions of Outlook out there. The new Outlook for Windows that's going to be replacing the classic version of Outlook, and you think to yourself, wait a minute, do I not have that much time to actually prepare for this? And the good news is that yes, you still do have time to prepare for this. This meeting can be a little bit, this message center announcement is a little bit misleading, and we'll go through that here. So starting in mid-July, for organizations that are using vanity domains, so just kind of easier to understand URLs, for customers, the following versions and clients are going to experience diminishing functionality. So this is going to be Outlook versions for iOS, Android, Mac, and then the Windows Mail and Calendar applications, which, by the way, if you haven't already started using the new Outlook and you are using that version of that client, that's just going away entirely. So if you're not using the classic Outlook experience and you are a consumer today watching the show and you're using Windows Mail and Calendar, it's time to move away from that and just to move into either the new Outlook experience that you can download to the Windows Store, or you can move directly to just using Outlook on the web, which is very similar in experience. As far as mobile versions of this go, so think that you're using maybe a shared device, or maybe you have Outlook on your phone or a tablet. I checked my phone before recording the show today, and I'm currently using the iOS version, which is 4.2422, and the last supported version here that they're calling out is 0.2411. So if you're updating your phone regularly, or you're updating your devices and applications regularly, you probably have nothing to fear from this as they kind of move into the mid-July and August timeframes. Once we move past that middle of July timeframe into mid-August, this is when there may start to be complete drops in functionality and errors showing up either at Outlook.com or just in different areas of the different browsers out there. So you'll also see that Microsoft calls out here that if you're using older browser versions like Internet Explorer and Microsoft Legacy Edge or Edge Legacy, again, you shouldn't even be really using those browsers anymore if you can avoid it, because they're not in support anymore. They've been retired. And then there's several versions of Chrome, Safari, Firefox that are supported by this, but you need to be above a certain threshold, which in most cases for Chrome and Firefox is going to be around version 79 and up. Kind of same thing with Opera, which runs on a similar engine type. And then Safari is version 13.1 if you're running on a Mac today. As this rolls out, it's going to be happening it's going to be happening again kind of through the summer, and by the time we hit September, this will be completed. Again, I want to call out to the fact that this is not the legacy, or rather the classic version of Outlook going away. Like, this is still going to be supported for some time. I did actually go through and I found the blog post here, which I'll blow it up on the screen so it's a little bit easier to see. So again, I did want to call out a little bit of caution around this because again, it feels like the message center announcement is a little bit misleading when it says legacy versions of Outlook. This is not going to affect the classic version of Outlook. So if you're an enterprise today and you are using the classic version of Outlook, there is still a timeline for that in place. And I'm actually going to expand that here real quick just so that we can look at that in a little bit more depth. So this is a blog post that was put out on March 7th of this year. It was just updated on the 17th and the 14th of June, and we're recording this on the 17th of June, so it was just updated today. And as we kind of scroll down this, we can see that we are approaching here general availability. This is what actually got updated today. So as we scroll down here and we look June 2024, we are now, in Microsoft's point of view, sometime within the month of June, we are hitting general availability for the new version of Outlook. However, if you are using a classic version of Outlook, that version is still supported and will still be supported for at least likely another 24 to 36 months. So as we kind of hit the opt out, or we get closer to the opt-out window, Microsoft is going to send a notice to customers saying that, hey, in about 12 months, you're going to get the opt-out notice. At that point, if you do not opt out, you will start getting pushed up to the new version of Outlook, though I would say that by that time, when that time comes around, that version is likely going to be ready for 99% of all people. I would argue today that the new version of Outlook is probably ready for about 85% of the people out there. I've been using it as a daily driver since about the September, October timeframe last year. And yes, I still do encounter issues. Like just the other day, I encountered an issue where I tried to send an attachment directly from a Word document to Outlook. It's not currently supported. That feature will be supported in roughly August from what I've seen on the roadmap. But yeah, just another new feature that just recently rolled out to the new version of Outlook was the ability to actually be able to cache data directly in your app data, which was a feature that was available in the classic version of Outlook, and it was kind of surprising that it wasn't there yet. But yes, that feature has recently rolled out. But once we move past opt-out, this is going to become the point where there'll probably be about 12 to 18 months left of a classic version of Outlook, and we'll be moving forward. I've seen a lot of posts and suggestions or assumptions out there that the classic version of Outlook will still be around up until sometime in 2029. Based on how I'm looking at the timeline, I would wager that probably 2026, 2027, maybe even 2028 is more likely, though we'll see. Microsoft's making a big push on their security first initiative right now. And with that in mind, I believe that that really is what's kind of powering the whole, hey, we're starting to retire some of these more legacy app versions as we move into the future, this new web-based future. So it's easier to secure, and then they have less of a version footprint out there. So that's the legacy Outlook client retirement plan. Again, it is not affecting the classic version of Outlook that many enterprises out there and small businesses are using with Microsoft 365 today, though. Do be aware that the time is quickly approaching over the next couple of years that you will need to be ready to start building training documentation and communications about the new version of Outlook. My biggest suggestion with the new version of Outlook right now is if you're using classic Outlook, leave that slider on in the top right corner and let your employees decide when they want to go back and forth so that they can start to kind of make themselves accustomed to what's coming here in the somewhat near future. All right, next one up here on the list is Microsoft Teams is soon going to be getting the ability for you to view file attachments that were attached through an Outlook meeting invite. So this is Message Center ID 801-585 and Roadmap ID 91163. So as the message states, coming soon to Microsoft Teams is going to be the ability to actually open up a Teams meeting in the Teams client and actually see the meeting attachment. So this is something that you couldn't do previously. And this is something that we hear about from a training and education point on the apps that, hey, where is this? How can I find it? There's all these different tabs floating at the top of Microsoft Teams, but I can't seem to find the attachments that are on there. This has led to customers that we've worked with having to fiddle around and open up Outlook to find the meeting attachment and then resend it as another email or add it directly into the Teams meeting chat. Even in some cases, taking it and uploading it into the file section of the meeting. And this is just, it's been a very cumbersome process. So I'm glad to see that Microsoft is making this nice quality of life change here. So as you kind of see on the screen, and I'll blow it up so it's a little bit easier to see, is Microsoft is going to allow you to open up any Teams meeting. You would see the meeting, who's invited, what times it was happening, and then below it around the meeting info bubble is you would actually see any attachments that got attached directly through an Outlook meeting invite. So there's not really a whole lot more to it than that. But again, it is a nice quality of life change. And it goes to show you that when you submit those type of feedback requests to Microsoft, is they're not just kind of going into the endless well of enhancement requests, though I imagine that there is probably a very endless number of enhancements that gets put on a regular basis, and they take all of those and prioritize them. But this is one of the ones that probably came up frequently enough that they decided to kind of move this forward a little bit quicker. So again, when can you expect that this is coming? This is going to be starting to roll out in mid-July. So targeted release is going to see it in early July. Mid-July is when we'll start to see more general availability. Whenever it comes to Microsoft availability for products and feature updates, I generally say take what they say with a grain of salt and maybe add 2 weeks to it. So I believe that by the time we get to the end of July, beginning of August, is most Microsoft Teams users will see this new feature showing up and be able to take advantage of it so that they have to dive through less windows to find those attachments. So staying on the Outlook theme, we have a new one coming up here for new search filters are being added to Microsoft Outlook. This comes under Message Center ID MC801261 and roadmap ID 398707. So the new Microsoft Outlook update is going to introduce search filters such as all, mail, files, teams, and people. The rollout is targeted for mid-July, so right in line with the other update coming to Teams that we were talking about earlier. And then general availability is expected in mid-August. No admin action is going to be required. Very similar again to the Teams one we were talking about for attachments. Again, this is another kind of one of those highly sought after features that did not carry itself over from the classic version of Outlook and might be one of the things that's holding you back from moving to the new version. We talked about search filters on the show a couple of weeks ago. This is a new one that's being added in here that should, again, just improve the overall quality of life. So I'll blow this up a little bit just so that you can see it a little bit easier. But again, what this is doing is when you go to search at the top of Outlook is you're going to have the ability to further filter. So if you're looking at this too, this is very similar to how you would search at portal.office.com or maybe in some of the Viva apps. It's just giving you the ability to type in your search result. And then after you type it in, you have the ability to kind of hone down to those specific areas. So if you're looking specifically for a file that was sent to you in an email, you type in the file name and then you click on mail, or you could click on files here. If you're looking for a specific chat conversation that happened, you can go ahead and click on Teams, and then it'll just try and declutter some of the noise that would come by just showing you all the results and just show you under that specific area. So again, this is a nice quality of life change that Microsoft is adding into the new Outlook, something that existed in the previous Outlook. But again, it just kind of goes to show that Microsoft is listening to the feedback and it's trying to improve its products to help its customers out. Again, you can expect this one coming by likely mid to late September for everyone. Though if you are in some of those targeted or earlier release builds, you may see it come a little bit sooner in the summer. This is one that I'm really excited about. Microsoft Viva Insights is getting a new ability to delegate access to the Microsoft Copilot dashboard. So at Virteva, we've been doing a number of different crash course and workshop engagements with customers specifically around Copilot for Microsoft 365. And two big feedback pieces that we get specifically around the Copilot dashboard. The first one is, hey, only managers seem to be able to get this. It's a very small pool. What if I want to let someone else on my team be able to see this, but I don't want to go through a whole bunch of access and security requests to get them into the right group. The delegation option here coming in late June is going to make that much easier to get to. They're also expanding access on this as well. So if you're a business customer and you don't have any sort of Viva licensing, say under like an E3 or an E5 license, is they're expanding this out a little bit more as well to make the Viva Insights dashboard specifically for Copilot a little bit more accessible. And the big reason again on this one is Microsoft is looking for more people to be able to adopt this tool and understand on how it's being used today. So this is coming under Message Center ID 801259 and Roadmap ID 398976. Again, it's going to give you a little bit more power to kind of see what's happening on those dashboards. So admins will have the ability to set policies in PowerShell to manage access to the dashboard delegation features. Leaders can assign and revoke access to anyone at any time through that delegation ability. And kind of taking a look at what that looks like, I'll blow up this screen here so you can see a little bit easier. Is very similar to any other Teams pop-up that you would see. Is you get the ability to basically just add a share. So you add a person to it, and then you can add an optional note if you want. You send that out, and it sends them either a link or just an email to let them know that they have the ability to see it. And then they should be able to go to Viva Insights, which is in the Teams app. And then they can go down and they can now see the Copilot dashboard to get better results on that. One of the other things that I'm pretty excited about coming to just this Viva Copilot dashboard is Microsoft has promised that over the coming weeks as we enter July is that they are improving the ability that you will have to further drill down on the user statistics and better understand how many times does Jen use the app this week? What apps did Jen use Copilot in? Today it is very, very high level. You can see how many licensed users are using it. So if you have 10 licensed users, it'll show you 9 are using it on an active basis over a 28-day window. It'll show you the apps that they're touching, but you can't currently today see, well, what are they actually doing with it? Like, are they using it in Word? Are they using it in PowerPoint? Are they using it in Loop? That stuff's not available today. That is also coming in July. I'm very excited about that. And we will likely probably showcase that in the next few weeks on an upcoming show. I know it's been one of the things that our Copilot customers that we've been working with have wanted more insight on, just due to the fact that the reporting isn't as good there as it could be. But very excited to see not only the Delegate feature coming here soon, but also the ability to get better, stronger, more powerful reporting out of the tool over the next month or so. Last one up for today's show, Microsoft Teams in chat, specifically in chat. The Files tab is being renamed to the Shared tab and is getting some additional features. This is happening under Message Center ID 800850. So today in Microsoft Teams, the Files tab is typically shown in chats and it's also shown in channels. For the purpose of this announcement coming in July, in chats, the Files tab is going to be renamed to Shared. And it will include files, links, and upcoming features like image previews, keyword searches. So not all of the functionality is rolling out at the same time. The big thing that's happening here in this announcement is that they are renaming that tab from Files to Shared. This is going to start rolling out in targeted release in early July, and it's expected to be fully rolled out by the end of July. So again, probably sometime at the beginning of August, most Teams users will have this feature. This is somewhat of a confusing change. I can kind of see why they're doing it because they're making some improvements to it as well. So it's not just going to be click on the Files tab at the top of a chat anymore. It's going to be click on Shared and see both files and websites, and just more and more stuff is going to start to fall under here rather than just files. I would have preferred personally that if they were going to make this change, that they made it in chat and channels at the same time. They are not making this change in channels from what I've been able to pick up on in this post and through targeted release. I haven't seen that either. There may be an objective internally within Microsoft to also make this update in channels, but they haven't made that readily available, at least in terms of screenshots or postings just yet. But I think that this is a good change. And again, I'll kind of make this a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see here. And then we'll kind of walk through each of the individual different screenshots to kind of go through it a little bit more. So we're here in a group chat called the Dream Team. We can see that next to chat, this would normally be named files, and it's now named recent. And you can kind of see an image that looks like it was scanned there. You can see a figma.com element in there. You can see a Word document, an Excel document, a PowerPoint, a PDF. And as we kind of continue to go through the screenshots here, you can see that there's a new links area next to files. So we were looking at the recent tab there. Files is still available if you just want to kind of narrow your search down to just files. And then that links area will specifically just pull links that got shared in the chat. So I can see that that's super useful because today, when I am going and I am trying to find something in a chat, specifically like a hyperlink that I've shared, I just have to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling up through that chat. And if you've used Teams on a desktop app, Teams only caches a certain amount of chat information. So as you scroll up, it'll kind of pause and then it'll load some more chat history. And then you'll keep scrolling up and it'll happen over and over again. So depending on how far back the links cache, this could be a very, very useful feature. And again, I think that this would be extremely useful in a channel-based scenario as well, especially like a shared channel where there may be a lot of information or a lot of contacts going on, different chat messages, different channel threads. That could be extremely helpful in that situation. Microsoft also kind of called out in their post that there's going to be some updated functionality. So as I kind of tab back and forth between these two shares, you can see that in this screenshot it's a very generic kind of like thumbnail or fave icon there. And then as I click over to the next one under links, as you can see that those icons are getting updated. So again, it'll just kind of give you a better idea of what you're looking at, where it came from at a glance. So again, this one is planning on rolling out at the beginning of July with full availability likely coming towards the end of July, sometime beginning of August. This is an exciting one. It's going to just make finding files and shared links and different documents types in search a little bit easier when you're in a chat by clicking on that new shared tab. And then hopefully we will also see this come sooner than later to the shared channel experience and the channel experience in general within Microsoft Teams. Well, that's about going to do it for the show this week. I wanted to thank everyone again for taking the time to tune in and listen in on the roadmap rundown. And I also wanted to thank all of our listeners and watchers out there on YouTube again for sharing the content, liking, subscribing. It's really been doing us a lot of good with getting the show out in front of more people and helping grow the channel. If you haven't already had the opportunity, please take a look at our episode 21 of the Let's Talk podcast that we released last week, Monday. That goes into detail where Chris Strong and I are really kind of breaking down the Microsoft Build announcements, the AI and the Copilot Plus PCs. We also spent a good amount of time talking about the Windows recall feature, which now that we're about a week and a half past when we recorded that podcast, Microsoft has actually done the right thing and they have rolled that feature back. So they've recalled recall, which I thought was really important just due to the fact that there was a lot of privacy and security concerns around a tool that is constantly screenshotting photos and everything that you do on your PC and just kind of dumping them into a folder in your app data that wasn't encrypted. It was easy to access. You didn't need an admin account. Microsoft heard the outcry from the community, from us, from all the different fans and media and MVP outlets out there. They've pulled that feature back. They are promising biometric requirements in order to get to the data. They are going to encrypt the data, and they're taking the opt-out feature and they are turning it into an opt-in, which was one of my biggest comments on episode 21, is that they really need to, at the very least, make that change. So it'll be interesting to see what that feature is going to look like in Windows when it probably rolls out sometime in the fall later this year. And that is a topic that we will likely cover on another Let's Talk podcast once we start to be able to get our hands on that, play with it, and understand, are there still any security concerns left around it? Or does it feel like a good thing that we could recommend for organizations or even just at the consumer level to use? We also spent a good amount of time talking about WDC on that podcast, which is Apple's big software event. And we talked about kind of what we thought that they might announce around their OpenAI partnership. And the news around that was huge, is Apple is going to be rolling out a new Apple Intelligence product, which is going to be very similar to Microsoft Copilot. But the big catch at the moment is that it is going to be free, or at least that's how it's been advertised to date. Is it'll work with the same kind of tie-ins to ChatGPT. It sounds like this is a kind of like, hey, I pat your back, you pat mine type of deal that Microsoft and OpenAI, or Apple and OpenAI, have going, where there's no exchange of money, and it's really more about ChatGPT wants to get in front of more people, and Apple wants a new way to kind of push their devices. So super exciting to see where that's going. And it's going to be a very interesting world here over the next 6 to 12 months as we see how that impact Microsoft's AI strategy with Copilot. If you're an organization out there that is rolling out new Microsoft 365 products for modern work or security, or maybe you're even rolling out Copilot for Microsoft 365, have you thought about using or working with Virteva as an implementation partner for those? If not, and you're interested, you can contact us by emailing us at letstalk@virteva.com or by visiting our website at www.virteva.com. And again, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. And don't forget to hit those like, subscribe, and share buttons to help us and the channel out. Have a good one.